Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on the video. It means a lot. Hey, you guys keep clicking. If you guys keep clicking, I'll keep making. And I think it's time. I think we need to recap this episode. Right? It's been a full 24 hours. I feel like we've had enough time to reflect on this episode and really get to our feel for this episode. Obviously, it was the penultimate episode of the season. We have the finale coming up. And as always, the finale comes more. With the finale comes more hype for the season. So I do feel like if we're going to talk about the finale, I think we have to talk about the episode before. So I just want to go through this entire episode and really just look at the amount of content that we got from this episode. This episode wasn't exactly the most crazy episode. Tribal wasn't that crazy, although Tribal was probably the best part of the episode. I thought this episode was pretty lackluster, and I think it's not what we needed going into this to this finale. Although I think that the finale can rebound, but I just want to talk about all of the stuff that went on in this episode. Really, the main characters in this episode are probably Deshawn and Ricard, I'd say, and probably Erica as well. But I feel like Xander, Heather, and Danny kind of took a backseat in this episode, and so let's just talk about it. What happened in this last episode before the finale? So let's see it. So this episode really starts when we get back from Tribal, right? So we really have a good 10-minute chunk of the episode where it's really just Deshawn talking about the race discussion at Tribal, right? So if you didn't know, last episode we had a discussion in which we talked about race for a literal 15-minute span. It felt like a half an hour. The Tribal was a half an hour, but half of the Tribal was spent on a race conversation, of which I will not comment on at this current time. But yeah, so we had Deshawn here basically go to three people and talk about the conversation. And I mean, if you count Danny, then it's four, and I'm sure he talked to Danny about it. But the first person who we see talk to him about this race conversation at Tribal was Xander. And Xander's like, you spoke so eloquently. Oh my gosh, just how eloquent of you. It was so stupid. That's just stupid to me. I think Xander may be playing this up just in case Deshawn ends up on the jury, and also just to keep face. Even if Xander didn't agree with what Deshawn said at the last Tribal, I do think that it was smart of him to not disagree publicly, because that's a terrible idea, especially with a jury that is so crazy woke that if you speak out against wokeness, you're basically signing your own death warrant in the game. And so I can respect Xander for the way that he approaches this situation. The issue is, if he's being dead serious, then it's kind of disappointing, because the player who I would think is the last person to buy into this nonsense has now bought into it. If Xander is just being 100% on a personal level real. The next person that he goes to is Heather, and Heather's thing is, I have so much to learn. I have so much to learn, and I'm so happy. This is why I'm on this season. I have so much to learn. It's very cringy. Like, Heather, go get an edit first, and then we can talk about learning or anything else for that matter. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously just people pandering. I don't think either of them have ever watched some sort of critical race theory video in their entire life. I don't think that they're going to, and I think they're just doing it for game purpose in order to keep a good relationship with Deshawn, which is smart, but it's also very smug and kind of screwed up in a way. So that's just my personal opinion. The third person that he goes to is Erica, and Erica's thing is, I feel so bad. Like, I know your struggle of having to vote out black players. I had to vote out a woman last Tribal. Oh, I feel so bad. I'm gonna cry because now they're I vote out a woman, and now the only person who can win who's a woman is me or Heather, and that's not very likely. So boo-hoo, because I had to vote out a woman in the game. To me this makes no sense. And she's saying that people want to see someone who looks like them win the game. No, anybody who has common sense does not care what the person who won the game looks like, except crazy people who belong on Twitter, for that matter. But the only people who care about the demographics of a winner are the people who claim to not care about it at all, which is absolutely ironic to me. Personally, I see this and I see Erica. I think Erica's the only person who is genuine here. It's not genuine in a good way, it's genuine in a woke way, where she's saying that she genuinely feels bad for voting out a player because that player had an XX chromosome in her body. And she says that she feels like people want to see winners who look like them. If by people you mean people on Twitter, yes. If by people you mean people with an iota of common sense, no. And again, as I stated before, this burns 10 minutes of episode time, which is absolutely ridiculous. If we, like, this could have been a 30-second convo where Deshaun goes and talks to, like, maybe you, like, show one of these combos. I think the Erica one would have been the best to show just because of Erica and Xander's arc over this episode and obviously going in the future. But I will say, I think the one that you show here is probably Heather, I guess, just because like you need to give Heather some screen time. So I can understand like making this like a 30-second spiel in the episode, but to make it a 10-minute ordeal that involves 3 to 4 plus conversations, and those are just the ones that we saw, is absolutely ridiculous in my personal opinion. And I think that's not how you edit the episode. I think it's almost as if production is trying to give Deshaun this like he is a man for the people. He's been having all these conversations with other people of other races, and he's fighting for people of his. I just think it's so stupid. Like, am I watching the news? Am I watching the news? Because it feels like I'm watching the news, and that's not like something that's cute or funny. That's a serious problem that should never feel like I'm watching the news when I'm watching Survivor. That's ridiculous. That's uncalled for, etc., etc., etc. Throughout part of this episode, and really just overall, the main theme from Deshaun and Danny is a very like "I told you so" type of theme. They even continue all the way through the episode, even going into Tribal, in which the "I told you so" is stemming from them having the opportunity to get out Ricard last Tribal and instead going for Liana, their main ally. And so Deshaun and Danny are saying to Xander, Erica, and Heather, "I told you so." Like, we could have got Ricard out in the last Tribal. And the argument from their side, and their side being Xander's, Erica's, and Heather's side, is that, hey, we can just get him out this round. But the comeback there is that Ricard is going to win immunity in this episode, which leaves them with no easy vote out, and now it puts Deshaun and Danny in a bad spot. So a lot of people are saying, that's not fair of Deshaun and Danny to say it was only a bad move for their games. It was a good move for Xander's, Erica's, and Heather's games. And I think that's not true. I feel like it was bad for everybody's games, because I think Ricard beats everybody at the end, which is already saying something, because Ricard is one immunity win away at Final 5, away from literally just having to win fire, and then it's almost a locked win if he wins that immunity challenge. And I think he has probably like a 60% shot of winning that immunity challenge, which puts him in a pretty good spot in my eyes. We have a reward challenge where it's 2 teams of 3, and we get one of the teams that wins in, I believe it's Xander, Erica, and Deshaun, and they win this reward challenge, and they get chicken and I think it's vegetables, and they form this. I mean, at least it's a spoken alliance. It's not an alliance that's had any physical use yet. Like, none of them have actually physically said or voted a certain way publicly that said that they are aligned to this group, but it is a verbal alliance of the chicken alliance, because they had chicken on the reward, and so I will say I think it's somewhat of a of something that would work for Deshaun, that would work for Xander. I don't think that it works for Erica here, although I do think that Erica can now beat Xander, and I think Erica has a shot against Deshaun. But then again, it's so hard because Deshaun's stock is so shaky, and I can't tell whether the people who are on Reddit saying Deshaun has no shot of winning are right, or if production and how they edited him for the first 10 episodes are right in the way that they edited him. I feel like the past few weeks we've gotten more of a not so heroic Xander edit, and that's an issue. Also, his demographics don't match what the jury wants to vote for in a black person or a woman. So I don't know. I mean, to me, I think Xander still has a shot, although I do think it is an uphill battle for him, for sure. It's at this point that Danny looks for an idol. So we see Danny try and look for an idol, and it shows that he got close to an advantage, or I guess somewhat close. I don't really know how close he got in reality, but it seems like he got pretty close. The issue is he doesn't get it, as we're told later on in the episode, kind of out of order. But Ricard has no idea about this, and Ricard has suspicions that Danny may have the advantage, which is quite a bad thing for Ricard, because now you're putting all of your eggs in one basket, voting out Deshawn. And if one person wants to flip with Deshawn and Danny, now it's all of a sudden a 3-3 tie vote. And so that puts Ricard in a spot in which he's in a good amount of danger. Not to the point where he's super, like he's going home for sure, but definitely dangerous. I'll just put it that way. It's at this point that we get a Deshawn and Erica talk, where Deshawn and Erica talk about the end, right? And so we get Deshawn purposely trying to get Erica to say that she doesn't want to go to the end with Heather. Deshawn admits this in confessional, and really it's Deshawn saying, well, like, you know, you don't want to go to the end against Heather because you guys have similar games. And Erica agrees. Yes, you can clean up that spilled coffee that you just spilled on the floor after you just abruptly stopped your daily routine when you heard that. Yes. Erica is scared of Heather at the end. Maybe we're seeing a completely different story than what happened out there, but from what we're seeing right now, Heather isn't even on the show, let alone a threat to win the game. Definitely not a threat. We're seeing her as not only a non-character, but definitely a non-player as well. Maybe it's different out there, but from what we're seeing, this is a very silly decision. Hopefully they edit her. Hopefully they edit in why she feels like she can't go to the end with Heather, and if she does make it to the end with Heather, hopefully we see whether or not that was a good move for her. The issue is, we just don't know. Like, I'm just genuinely confused as to why she would think that, why she would do this. It just doesn't click in my personal head. So at this point that we have our immunity challenge, where Ricard wins, and again, the I told you so's came back extra hard here. And it's very odd. Deshawn and Danny decide to flip nobody here. They really, I mean, they like try to, but I just don't see like a lot of urgency from them in trying to flip somebody, which just shows that like they know that they are on the bottom here, and they just seem to have a gut instinct that nobody is flipping with them, to the point where Deshawn kind of blows up at Tribal. So when we get to Tribal, immediately Deshawn drops a truth bomb. He says that if I'm gonna go home, then I'm not gonna go home quietly, and he drops what's been referred to since then as a truth bomb, and that was him outing Erica for saying that she can't go to the end with Heather. And so in this he asked that Heather flip over with him and Danny. This does not work. This not only doesn't not work, it actually alienates Heather and Erica, and then Ricard and Xander actually vocally say out loud that was not a smart move, both of them. And so it seems to kind of blow up in Deshawn's face. And not only all of those repercussions, but it also makes Erica very, very angry. In fact, Erica and Deshawn have kind of like a stare down, or like not a stare down, but like a very tense conversation that you can tell is very passive aggressive after this. That's really headed by Erica being mad at him. And I don't know, it's weird. And then after the eventual vote for Danny, we get a soundbite from Erica saying, "You're welcome, friend," to Deshawn. So it's obvious that she is hurt by this outing, from Deshawn. She does acknowledge the fact that they are kind of up and down in their relationship, but it seems to her like this was going way too down, and that Deshawn again kind of comes off smug here after this. If you can call it a move here, it's pretty bad. Danny, on the other hand, takes a very different approach, staying quiet the whole time and basically kind of like almost like gassing up Erica's anger. Like at one point when Erica makes a very passive aggressive comment to Deshawn, Danny actually says out loud, "Ooh, that got personal," which I think is funny to me, that Danny's just over here like just trying to stay as quiet as possible. It does not work. When they vote, they split the vote 2-2. No, hold on. No. Okay, so yeah. They split the vote 2-2. because it's 4 of their votes versus 2 of Deshaun and Danny. So the 4 splits their votes 2-2. And then Deshaun and Danny both vote for each other. And I just want to mention here that they vote for each other because Deshaun mentioned out loud, like, hey, so I guess we're voting for each other, right? I guess, to be honest, I don't know why he was honest here, because on this revote, they could have just voted him out, which is probably the better move for them. Instead, they vote out Danny here. But if Deshaun had just said, hey, Danny, we're going to go after Ricard, apparently, we're going to go after Erica, apparently Xander and Ricard are going to flip over with us and this, then he could have misdirected Danny's vote toward the anybody but him, and then the votes is a 3 on Danny, 2 on Deshaun, and then Danny's miscellaneous vote. But instead, he decides to be honest with Danny before Tribal and say, hey, we're both voting for each other, right? And that's, to me, not a very good move, because now it puts it in the hands of the 4 on the revote, and they do spare him. But overall, this Tribal definitely hurt this game overall. And I have to say, the jury, although Deshaun has come off very, very assholey in these past few episodes, and very smug and just dirty with some of his moves and like a snake, the issue is I feel like, specifically like Liana, a person who should hate Deshaun. Deshaun has this feeling of I'm just making the moves that I have to, and I was trying to protect you, but then these idiots voted you out, Liana. Oh my God, this and that. That's Deshaun's way of getting back people's votes, is by saying, I tried, but these other people did this. Whether it's true or not, it's a pretty good strategy, and it's working so far. As I feel like Shan has now kind of softened up on him. I don't see Evie necessarily hitting him that much, and obviously I think he has Liana's vote locked up right now if he gets to the end against anyone except for Ricard. And that's it, guys. I mean, tomorrow's video, I'm going to talk about the overabundance of advantages in the game, and overall just talk about this new era has got to change. There's no way that this drop the 4, keep the 1 thing is going to maintain for more than, I think, 2 or 3 seasons before legitimately long-time fans start leaving. It's already happening, but not on a mainstream level. We could start to see these big Twitter figures who watch Survivor just leave, because this new era is just so convoluted with not advantages, but actually twists. What I liked about the 30s is it was very advantage heavy, but the twists just weren't there. You didn't have your crazy outcast twists or your crazy casting twists, at least not as often. It was more of a lot of advantages, whereas in the 40s seems to be leaning more on twists than advantages, which for me is more boring to me. So I'm gonna talk about the new era and why I feel like it's kind of trash. And that's it, guys. None of this happens without you guys. I'm just a weird guy speaking into a weird microphone. If you're new here, you know exactly what to do. Join the family. We're at 1.6 something K. I don't even know. Hopefully we can get to 2K soon. That's it, guys. I'll talk to you guys hold on. If you want to watch us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, we are there now. We are on there. We're strong. If you want to watch any of our live shows or the Power Ranking podcasts, on your phone, and then be on a different app besides YouTube where you can lock the screen, I would definitely suggest going and checking out these episodes over there. And that's it, guys. Peace.